Okay, today I want to talk about a very important topic, epigenetics, one of the most exciting to me. I've been preaching this for a really long time, and now we have the tools to actually show you what that means and how to access the power of this concept. And it really has to do with what your genes have to say about your health, but much more empowering version of that than you are your genes, because you are not your genes. Now, your genes, as you will see here, play a role in your health, but then you're in control. It's called epigenetics. So I'm going to get into how you can upgrade your genes. Yes, you can actually turn on good genes, turn off bad genes, decrease your risk of diseases like heart disease, Alzheimer's, breast cancer, all kinds of diseases, and then improve your entire life. We're going to get into how you can do that just by knowing what your genetic tendencies are, and then more importantly, the strategies to maximize your genetic potential. And this is what's really cool. As I dive into this, you're going to get excited too. So your genetics, okay, people always ask me like, well, do genetics really control my risk of X, Y, or Z disease? And I tell them your genes play a massive role in that, but they're not the final say. You have the final say. But there are several diseases that have been linked to different genes in your body. Bunch of these here. So celiac disease, which is lactose or gluten intolerance. Dementia and Alzheimer's disease, they say there's a link to that called ApoE4, which I'll get into in a little while. Parkinson's disease, genetically linked. Cancer, heart disease, when you say it runs in families, genetically linked. Fibromyalgia, joint and muscle pain. A lot of people say, "Okay, yeah, my mom had that. That's probably why I have it." Depression and anxiety, which I'll show you when it comes to methylation defects. Obesity, diabetes, autoimmune disease, sleep issues, skin problems, all of those have a genetic factor. All right, they have a genetic component. So you want to know that and know what you can do to manage your risk there. Now, your genome, well, when I say your genomic testing, or we're doing genome testing, genomes is just the specific DNA code that is you, and it's unique to you, and it's different than everyone else on this planet. It's not the same as your sister, your brother, your mom, your dad. Everyone is uniquely different when it comes to your genome. Your genome is what makes up you, and that's when I say you're an incredible healing machine, because your DNA and your genome tells that entire incredible healing body that you have to do certain things, okay? So it's carrying out the instructions from your genes, and specifically from the DNA and the genes. So people have 46 chromosomes, 23 from each parent. The entire set of genetic instructions is called your genome. So that's what tells everything else what to do. Your body makes, I have no hair. I'm bald because of a couple of genes that control my hair. Okay. That's as simple as it goes. It wasn't anything that I did in my lifestyle. But there are genes that you can influence with how you live your lifestyle. And there's a lot of those. So your genome not only determines how you live now, but also what you'll pass on to future generations. This is what's exciting, because we talk about generational wealth a lot. Well, how about generational health? Like, you pass on better genes than your parents passed on to you. That's success to me. Like, I'm already passing on better lifestyle, that my parents passed on to me, and, different ways of looking at life, things that I've learned. But man, if I could change my genes and if I can pass on better genes to my future generation, that's incredible. And that's what I'm talking about here. So your genetic code, okay, the genetic code is the genes expressed through your body, all right, and they're going to have several different outcomes when it comes to your body. The first is health tendencies. Are you more likely to get Alzheimer's disease later in life? Are you more likely to get breast cancer? Are you more likely to suffer with depression? Are you more likely to have osteoporosis? All of those things are something we can tell just by testing your genome. That's disease susceptibility. And the other is vibrancy or struggle. This isn't just do you have a tendency to develop breast cancer or heart disease. This is also things like methylation defects, or what's called MTHFR. I'll get to in a few minutes here. And that's where your body doesn't methylate. I know I'd have to go into the whole biochemistry of it, but it basically means that you can't make chemicals in your brain that make you happy. So I see a lot of people with depression because they have an MTHFR gene defect. And it's really simple. All they would have to do is take a few B vitamins in specific cases, specific B vitamins, or what we call methylfolate, and it changes their entire life. And they don't have to be, taking antidepressants and doing all this other stuff. It's just as simple as knowing what you can do to work with that gene defect. Okay, so vibrancy or struggle goes right back to this. It also talks about you can find out, is your diet working for you? Should you be eating more fat? Should you be eating more carbohydrates? You can tell all that by testing your genes. So there's a difference between expressed and inherited, okay? And this is what's important. You are not the genes you're born with. It's the genes you express that matter. Okay? You have genes that you're born with, but what we call epigenetics or above genetics means you can change the expression of those genes, which is really cool to me. You can change the expression of those genes through your lifestyle. You don't control your genes, but you do control your lifestyle. And this is where it becomes really empowering, especially if you have quote unquote bad genes in your family, like so many of us do. Like my family, all men in my family died of heart disease by the time they were 65 years old. But you know what? If that's my genes, I know I need to be vigilant against this and then test and find out what I need to do to correct those things. Okay? So genes can be turned on or turned off based on environment. Okay? So pro-cancer genes that cause cancer, can be turned on. Okay? You can eat and exercise and do things that are going to cause that to happen, right? You'll turn those genes on by eating certain foods. Pro-cancer genes can be turned off, which means you can eat certain foods and do different things in your environment that will turn off genes that cause cancer. Genes that fight cancer can be turned on. So genes that help your body kill cancer cells can be turned on, and the same way it can be turned off. So what do you want to do? You want to do 2 and 3. You want to turn off the genes that cause cancer, and you want to turn on the genes that prevent cancer. Just as simple as that. So DNA, though, is not your destiny. That's something I want to make sure you understand here. So genes load the gun. That's what we always say. Your genes show you where the gun is loaded, but environment pulls the trigger. Okay? Environment pulls the trigger, not what you're born with. This is a great example of that. These are agouti rats. Okay? This big fat rat right here is called an agouti rat. And these specifically, they have a agouti gene defect. All right? They have a gene that is defected from normal rats, and it causes them to be very overweight, causes them to have diabetes, and it causes their lifespan to be about 35 to 40% shorter than normal rats, right? And they're all born this way, okay? If you just mate these over and over, they're all born this way unless you give them a specific vitamin while they're pregnant, and then that changes that gene, it overrides that gene defect, and then they give birth to these healthy rats. This rat is the offspring or baby of this rat right here. And what happened when this rat was pregnant is they gave her methylfolate, methyl B12, because she had a methylation defect like I was talking about, which was able to get corrected in the embryo. And then this rat was born normal. This rat is completely normal based on what this rat did while it was pregnant. How cool is that? Right? So we can change these things based on our environment. Okay? So the whole is different than the sum, or greater than the sum of its parts. Like gene makes up a pattern, but they're influenced by everything else that you do, which is called your environment. Okay? When we look at your environment, we look at nervous system function. How well is the nervous system controlling everything else? Mental state or stress. Sleep. How much sleep are you getting? Diet. Are you getting foods that are high in quality nutrients? Are you getting the right macronutrients? Are you getting the right amount of fats, carbohydrates, and proteins? Should you be eating more fat or less fat? Do you need to take more B vitamins than other people because you have a methylation issue? Like, how do you know that? Well, you know that by looking at your genome. Activity level. Are you somebody who is more of a sprinter, or should you be going and doing high-intensity interval training for 12 minutes a day, or should you be walking around the block for 40 minutes? You can tell that by testing your genes. Toxins. It looks at how well your body makes glutathione. And glutathione is, I always say, that's the fountain of youth. If you've ever known anybody who smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day and drank a fifth of Jack Daniels a day, and they lived to be 102 years old, like we all know that person, right? The reason they did that is because they have high glutathione levels. Glutathione is your major detoxifier in your body. It basically makes up for all the bad things that happen in your body. So it fights off cancer, heart disease, inflammation, all of those things. And again, you can test how well your body's making glutathione by testing your genome. And then culture. You know, culture is the other part of the environment here. What is your culture in your family? Like I got the genes passed on to me by all the sick people in my family, but I also got a culture of not exercising, not eating good foods, and I needed to change that, right? So you're in control of all of these things that influence your genes, okay? So epigenetics, here was what we say, is you test and then you correct. So this is a study that was done several years ago by Dean Ornish. 30 men with prostate cancer decided against traditional medicine. Okay, so they were diagnosed with prostate cancer. They said, I'm not going to do radiation. I'm not going to have my prostate removed. I'm going to do something different. And so what they did was meditation every day. They decreased their stress levels. They started eating specific diet, and they started exercising. So they changed what we just talked about. They changed these things, okay? And what happened to them within, this is with 90 days, they changed the activity of 500 genes. So they increased the activity of 48 cancer-preventing genes, and this is awesome. They turned off the activity of 453 cancer disease-promoting genes involved in prostate and breast cancers. So they turned off the genes that were causing the cancer that they had, not through drugs, not through surgery, through lifestyle. That was in 90 days. Absolutely massive study. Okay? So you're in control, not your genes. Now, how do you do this? Why did these guys do this? Because they got tested, right? So they knew which genes they had, and that's what's important. Now, this is the cool thing I was telling you about. You pass on your genes and your epigenes, right, to your offspring. So the healthier you can get this going in your family, like so with my kids, right? So if I can get my kids doing this right, then my grandkids will have better genes. If I had another baby, I would be passing on genes to the kids. I'm not doing that, but if I get this right in my kids, now my kids can pass on better genes to their offspring. I mean, that's how we change the health in this country, is by changing what we express, right? So what happens is you do a test, and the test is really simple. It's a cheek swab test. You send it into the lab, which I'll go through in a couple of minutes, and then they test all these different genes and gene variances, and they give us a report back, which I'll take you through in a minute here. So, like, the way to upgrade your genes, one of them is like looking at your diet. So are you eating too many carbohydrates, too much sugar? Are you eating too much commercial proteins or not enough protein? Are you getting too many bad fats or not enough healthy fats? We can learn that just by doing the genetic test, okay? So you send the lab to the saliva sample to the lab. It's a cheek swab, so you wet it with your saliva, then you get cells from the inside of your mouth that has all the DNA that's in your entire body through those chromosomes. And your genetic data is analyzed. We generate your personalized report based on the studies and medical research that's been done for the last 20 years. And then we tell you what you can do epigenetically to control your health and decrease your genetic risk profile, which is awesome. So let me see if I can pull this up. I think I can. Let me pull this up here. There we go. Okay, so this is a sample report. I'm not going to take you through the whole thing, but I will show you a little bit. And it's looking at how to read your results. So do you have no impact on the genes, moderate impact, high impact, or a beneficial impact? Maybe you have a gene that's working in your favor, right? And you want to know that. So the first thing it looks at, we look at bone health, and we determine, how the bones are functioning based on what the genes that help collagen be made. So it looks at, fracture risks. Detoxification, this is what I was telling you. So it's looking at how well your body's making glutathione, what I was telling you about. So this person here has a problem here that we need to pay attention to. These are the detoxification pathways I was telling you about. We look at food responsiveness. So specifically, how are you able to metabolize polyunsaturated fat? It looks at caffeine sensitivity, salt sensitivity. Some people have high blood pressure because they're very salt sensitive, so they need to have a different diet than other people. So we look at iron, caffeine sensitivity, all the way through there. Lactose sensitivity, inflammation, right? So do you have any genes that actually turn on inflammation? Some people have more inflammation than others, and they need to pay very close attention to their supplements and diet. Insulin sensitivity. Again, I won't go through all of it. It's a million different things that we're looking at. This is really important, though. Lipid metabolism. So HDL and LDL, why do you maybe have high HDL or low HDL and high LDL? What can you do about that? Right? You can tell that by looking at your genes. Methylation, this is the one I was telling you about earlier. This one specifically, MTHFR. And for me, I had an MTHFR defect. And I knew that my neurotransmitters were off because I got those tested, and I was having a lot of problems with anxiety, a lot of problems sleeping because I wasn't making serotonin and dopamine or GABA well, but I didn't know what to do about it. So I was taking all these different supplements trying to correct that. Then I got my MTHFR test, and I found out that I had two defects from my parents. So I need to be taking methyl B12 and methylfolate, a very simple supplement, very inexpensive supplement that costs like 10 or 15 bucks a month. And it changed my entire outlook on my life. I got rid of the anxiety, got rid of the sleep problems, and I went 40 years without knowing this stuff. And then it takes you through looking at oxidative stress, and then we get down into like what your diet should be. Okay, so what kind of risk factors that you have for obesity? What are your risk factors in terms of saturated fat? How much saturated fat? How many carbohydrates should you be eating? Like all of those things are included in the test, which I absolutely love. So let me pull this back up here. bear with me here. Move that out of there. There we go. Okay. So this should open us back up. Okay. So test, don't guess. I always show this picture because this is the reason that I am vigilant with my health, and I'm not going to guess on the things that I'm doing with my health because my family matters, you know, and yours does too. So these are my kids, Samantha and Dylan, and my wife Jana. This is our trip to Galveston a couple of years ago. We had an amazing trip, got some incredible family stories and family memories from it. I remember, you know, riding bikes on the beach with my son Dylan, and Samantha and I being able to go running every morning together, which was a blast. We were about to get attacked by mosquitoes in this video, or in this picture, I still remember. And everything that, you know, I realized those times when you realize how important your health is and how important your body actually is, because I want to be with these people for a long time, right? Now, what always reminds me of this is, what if I didn't pay attention to those things, and what if I, what I call lifestyled myself to death? And I took myself out of that picture, right? So because I didn't know what I should have been doing, I didn't ever get the testing. I didn't know about the MTHFR gene. You know, when I got the MTHFR tested, I found out that some of the people that have the imbalances I have are really increase their risk of suicide. So they're prone to suicide. I wasn't suicidal, but I could definitely see where somebody was coming from. So what if now I'm not in this picture anymore, and it's just something that I could have controlled with something as simple as vitamin B12, you know? Same thing with, like, if you could test ApoE4, which is looking at your Alzheimer's risk. Like, I want to be able to remember my family. That's what I want to be there for, because this is a much different picture with me in it, right? Like, I want to make sure I'm in it. So the testing that we do, the genomic lifestyle and wellness testing I just showed you about, it's the test, okay? And it's, again, something you can do at home or in the office. Very simple. Send it in. They send me the results. We do an ERE, which is an environmental risk evaluation with it. So we know exactly what areas we're looking at. We know what your diet looks like. We know what your stress levels look like. We know what your hormone levels look like. And then we're able to give you a consultation with what you can do to change that. Very empowering. Okay. So the cost of that is $249. Like I always say with all of these tests, if that seems like a lot of money to you, then I haven't done a good job of explaining how important this testing is. You know, there's two ways that you can go about spending on your health. You can do a little bit at a time and invest in your health, and then do something about it and reap the benefits of that. Or you can spend no money on your health, and then you can give it all back later on. You know, I was just talking to a patient. Her husband's in a nursing home now, and he would never do anything that wasn't on the insurance. You know, he had quote unquote good insurance, but it wasn't, which is funny to me because it's not good insurance. It's good sick care insurance, which means they cover all the medication and procedures that you need. There's no insurance that covers, you know, epigenetic testing. They don't do that stuff. So when we were talking, she's like, yeah, he wouldn't do anything that wasn't on, you know, he wasn't cheap. He didn't want to spend any money. And he never took care of himself, and he lives in the nursing home now. And she told me, this is going to cost us $80,000 a year until he dies, you know? And so he could have spent a little bit of money and started making these changes. You know, I was just talking to a patient. She went to Whole Foods, I think. She's like, well, eating healthy is really expensive. And she was kind of laughing. And I get where she's coming from. Whole Foods is expensive. But, you know, what I told her is, like, if you think being healthy is expensive, try disease. Like, disease is expensive. You know, this is a drop in the bucket. So it's $249 and includes everything that we just talked about there. If you're ready to go ahead with the test, you just email me if you have any questions. You can email me at eshoemake1@gmail.com. That's eshoemake1@gmail.com. We'll get your request sent over to the team. We'll have the kit ready for you. We'll get you all set up. You get an online profile, fill out the ERE. Then they send us the results. We do another follow-up evaluation or follow-up consultation and tell you, okay, what you can do to maximize your health, to mitigate the effects of these genes so you can live a long life and be around for your family for a long time. So if you're ready to do that, just shoot me an email and we will get you fixed up.